Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. So this will be a duo presentation. At Livework we like to co-create a lot, so this presentation was also co-created, so that will be a lot of sort of handovers and trying to figure out how to make this a smooth experience for you all. But let's get into the topic. So when we were asked to talk about positive technology, our first sort of question to ourselves was, what is positive in our case? And for our company and for our clients, for the kind of work we do, what does positive mean? And very soon we figured out that positive means that human, very much people at the heart of whatever we design, functional, valuable, meaningful. And so we said, let's not talk about positive technology, but let's talk about human technology. Technology really at the service of people and really sort of in the background, really enabling people to do whatever they want to do and to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So this presentation is about humanizing technology, and the question to us and to ourselves and to you is, can you humanize technology? And if so, what would that look like? How can you do that? So we saw this presentation also as a quest to ourselves to sort of analyze the work we've been doing and to figure out, you know, what kind of process have we been following or what kind of thinking have we been doing in order to humanize technology. And we will be making you part of that journey, first by sharing our view on human technology with you. Then we present a framework that we crafted especially for this presentation, which is sort of post-rationalizing what we've been doing in a lot of our projects, and sort of figuring out, you know, what is the structure of what we've been doing, and sharing it with you just to get your feedback and also to maybe come to a shared understanding of, you know, the ingredients of human technology. And then finally, we have a little manifesto for you that we hope that you feel sort of connected to in your hearts and that you can take home with you. I'm over-promising a bit maybe, but let's see where we get. So our first statement is, don't fall in love too much with technology. It's interesting to be at a conference with a lot of developers and a lot of designers. I spend a lot of time at design conferences, like the Service Design Network conference, or at the Design Management conference, those kind of things. And their technology doesn't play such a big role. A lot of those people are very much interested in human outcomes and customer journeys and experience and those kind of things. But for me, it's a bit of a relief to be with developers because they're so much hands-on and practical and pragmatic and with their feet firmly on the ground. On the other hand, developers also run the risk of falling in love a bit with technology and using technology for technology's sake. And I'm a very average internet user, very average app user, very average technology user, and sometimes I simply cannot figure out what people have tried to design for me, right? And I'm a pretty intelligent guy, but sometimes I just don't get it, and I'm, you know, swiping and switching and flicking, and I just don't get it. So I think we're tending to fall in love a bit too much with what technology can do per se, rather than what it can do for us. So what we like to fall in love with a bit more is like the impact technology can have on people's lives. And I'm talking about social causes, I'm talking about healthcare, I'm talking about government, but I'm also talking about very basic stuffs like microphones and remote controls and apps on iPhones, right? So let's really focus on how technology can help people achieve goals. This is us, Livework, service design company. We have 3 locations. Rotterdam is new. I ran a service design company in the Netherlands and merged it with Livework a year ago. So now we have Rotterdam, Oslo, and London. We're about 70 people strong. We have a satellite in Sao Paulo, and we're a really cool company to work for. So we just talked about potential future collaborations, and we're always open to meet new people. So come talk to us in the breaks. We are very multi-skilled, so we believe, so let me put it this way, we don't employ pure developers, we don't employ pure researchers, we don't employ pure aesthetic designers, we're a bit a mongrel breed, we're a bit all of the above. Some of us are engineers, some of us are psychologists, some of us are designers. And we really like that mix. We have 14 nationalities in our team, which is really cool. People from all over the world. I think especially London is like a really great mix of, there's hardly any English people living there or working there. So that's us. I was trained as an industrial design engineer. So I have a background in building stuff and making stuff work. And I think as a designer, it really helps to have that engineering background. I like to think of services also as not so very different from products in the sense that they have to work, they have to help you achieve a certain goal, they have to take you through a certain experience. If they're broken, you have to be able to fix them and those kind of things. So I design services as if they were products. The only difference is that services help you establish a relationship in time, which is of course even more meaningful than a product that you can put in a cupboard and it's gone. So enough about me. Flaminia, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Erik. So, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today with you. And my name is Flaminia, as you can read on the slide. And I want to tell you about my dream. So my dream is to create better services for everybody. Yeah, it's quite a big dream. But this is why I believe humanized technology is so important, and technology in general is so important, and this is why we're here today. Let me tell you a couple of things about myself. So I do have a background in product design, and I have a master in product engineering, so it's a little bit of a mix. And I currently live in London, and I'm a service designer over there. And probably by now, there is another thing you might have noticed from my accent, I'm Italian. And I want to tell you as well why I really love my job. And it's because it's different every time. And just to give you an example of what I was doing last week. So last week, I was in some remote city in the UK called Derby. And what I was doing, I was working for the NHS, that is the public health in UK. And I was trying to help the people of the surgery to improve their patient experience. So to improve the fact that they have a lot of missed appointments over there. To give you another example to show you how different it is, last year I was working for a luxury company. And I mean, I know nothing about luxury. And I was trying to understand why customers get frustrated over there and what were their pain points during their journey. So from this, now that I told you a little bit about myself, I want to tell you about our vision. So our vision is to create great experience for people and solve real problems. And what we want to do is using technology just to facilitate this process, just to make it smoother. How many of you have seen Back to the Future? Oh, okay. Then you know what I'm talking about. How many times? We have a good question. One time? 5. Okay, 5. That's good. So you know who is this guy, Dr. Emmett Brown. And what I want to say here is that we're not technology experts. So I'm not like him. I really have no idea how to create a time travel machine. But what I do know is, or what I could possibly know, is why people want that machine, right? So why people need that machine, how do they imagine this machine to be, etc. And the reason why is that we are people experts. What this means is that we are focused on people's needs and pain points during their journey or why they interact with the service, for example. And we look at them not just as human being, but also as a customer. As I mentioned already, I work for the NHS, I work for a luxury brand. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that we worked with very diverse type of sector. So we work for a telecommunication company, transportation company, healthcare, luxury, and so on. And what this means is that we are not sector expert. And yesterday someone made this question, how can you be expert in so many things? But we are expert of the process. So this is why we create a framework for you, and we're going to show you. When we got invited to this conference, we started discussing with Erik, and we were thinking like, okay, what's our view on technology? How do we see technology right now? And what we realized is that we are interested in technology only as an enabler of people accomplish their goal. So we are all about people. And for us, technology really is a mean and not an end. And then we start wondering, like, okay, so how is that technology ends up in the hands of the customer? How is that we have iPhone in our hands right now? And what we start realizing is there are two possible ways. The first one is that technology is pushed towards the customer. What this means is that people make a lot of research and they investigate things in their lab, and then what they come up is like all this cool technology. Forgive me if I say cool technology because I'm not an expert. What I'm good at is visualizing, so I start thinking, okay, cool technology, they could be a rectangle, a circle, etc. And this pool of cool technology then is, again, pushed into the hands of the customer, so you end up with a technology in your hand. The second way is that technology are selected based on human needs. So we have this bunch of people, they have all their needs, then we start investigating their needs. And then what we do is like we go to this pool of cool technology and we select the one that makes sense to solve their problem. And what it happened is that we have our happy blue customer with his right technology in his hand, with this purple circle. What this means is that it's a meaningful solution. So just to make a recap about this cool technology, what we believe is that cool technology are often solutions waiting for a problem. Let me give you 3 examples that I like quite a lot. The first one is the self-tying shoes that Nike have just launched. How many of you know them? Okay. Second one, self-parking chairs. Oh, so nice. I love it. You don't have to put your chair back to the desk anymore. And the third one, like you can print your selfie on the foam of your cappuccino. How cool. So let me hand over to you, Erik, because what we want to show you now is an example of a great experience.
So it's interesting, these 3 examples, they're always kind of cool, and your Facebook wall is full of them, right? With cool technologies where you think, that's really clever, and what the fuck do I need that for? You know, that kind of, and we had lots of laughs. You know, there's so many, like, I mean, you can turn your iPhone in a 3D printer, and it's really clever, and it's really well done, and it uses the light of the screen to solidify some kind of resin, and it's like technologically really clever. But hey, you know, why would I need that? And we're not against these things. That's not the point we're making. We just think that you can get a bit lost in this space of you know, creating solutions, waiting for a problem. There's no real problem you're solving. You're using technology for technology's sake, and that's not the business we're in. It's a stream of consciousness that is necessary because technology needs to sort of be experimented with. But we think you should always look at it from the other side, and the other side is this human technology that we've been talking about. The example I'm giving you is from Philips, a Dutch company, of course. And Philips encountered a lot of problems with their MRI scans for kids. It's a very clinical environment. It's very threatening. There's a lot of guys in white suits looking very scary. And kids got very tensed up. They would go into the scanner, they would move, and the scan would not be successful, so they'd have to go again, and it was a horrible experience. Rather than looking at sort of fixing these kids in the scanner or developing all kinds of sedation technology or whatever, they started to solve the problem from an experience perspective. And basically what they did is, why don't we make kids feel comfortable about this scanner experience before we scan them? So the actual scanning experience is quicker, it's cheaper, it's more successful, it's easier for the doctors, it's more pleasant for the kids. And we create an experience where the kids just start to understand this technology and start to wrap their head around it, so they're just much more at ease. So basically what Philips did is they designed a sort of a toy scanner, and you can select a pet, and you can take the pet through the scanner. You can give the pet the same kind of disease or tumor that you have, so you can get to know why this scan is necessary and what the scan is trying to figure out. And you get to configure it in a very playful, nice way. And all this happens in a very comfortable space outside of the scanning room. And then you put your pet through, and you get the results, etc. And by then you understand why this is needed, why you need to lie still. You understand the process. You understand that it's not harmful. You understand what all these people in white suits are doing, and the kid is much more comfortable, and they lie still for the first time, and the actual scan is a good experience. So we think that is just really clever, a very clever way of using technology, using this sort of virtual environment in a very simple but very effective way. Based on that case and based on the work we've been doing, we've been devising this humanizing technology framework, and the GIF you see in the background is about integrating 3 streams in order to use technology wisely. So see technology as the little pencil that holds the wires together, and then the 3 wires, I'll explain them now. So normal technology push, as Flaminia explained it, what usually happens is there's some kind of cool technology, and people start to look for a business opportunity with it. So they go on Kickstarter, and they devise some cool invention, try to get some money for it, try to sell it. That's sort of the normal, we have a technology, let's try to market it kind of thinking. And we call that the business stream. And it's a very vital stream. There's nothing wrong with it. But we've added 2 extra streams to it. One is a human stream, which is around human needs and people outcomes, and we briefly discussed jobs to be done yesterday in the Fjord presentation. That's really the human stream. And then the third one is the organization stream, and we haven't talked about organizations enough in this conference. Employees are also people. The people you are trying to engage in order to deliver a certain experience are just as well people as your customers and your users. And they need to be researched in the same way, they need to be respected in the same way, they need to be understood in the same way. Empathy always goes outside, right? We have to, there's outside thinking, outside in thinking, we have to put the user at the heart of what we do. At Livework, we very much believe that the employee deserves the same kind of respect, because it's them who have to deliver the service. So 3 streams, and for each stream we've analyzed what we've been doing in our projects. And they integrate like this braid. And it's not like one is more important than the other. You need all 3 of them to make the braid, right? So you start with some kind of technology, and then you have the business stream, you have the human stream, and you have the organizational stream, in order to make sure that they're integrated in a nice way and that they all get to play a role in what in the end becomes a humanized technology. So let's look at the business stream a bit more up close. We have some kind of technology, this solution waiting for a problem. It's on the shelf, it's cool, we'd like to use it, we have no idea what for. Mostly people start by, hey, can we use this to save some money somewhere? We talked about it yesterday as well in the Fjord presentation about can we bypass some employees? Or I believe we talked about it at your McDonald's presentation as well. So technology to save money, which is a very worthwhile cause, because usually the CEO will say yes to that, right? Usually you get some budget for that. If you can save money somewhere through technology, that's a very good entry point. And then we believe that that's only the first step. The second step would be, can we actually create some new value with that? Can we enter new markets? Can we find new target groups? Can we open up new channels that we haven't used before? So it's not only saving money, it's also finding new revenue streams. This is the business stream, and you can't really isolate this, right? This in itself is not a good scoping for a design assignment. You need that second stream, that human stream. And we believe also here we have sort of 3 levels that you can look at. You can start with sort of what are functional needs that people have in their lives. You know, a doctor needs to be in time at an operating theater. They have to have the right tools. For every design problem, there's a list of very functional specs that you can meet. And there's nothing wrong with starting there, right? Those are real customer needs, very solid, very tangible, and very important to map in a very thorough way. But then secondly, you have more emotional needs, right? And emotional outcomes. And when you look at the customer job framework, it's very interesting to look at functional needs and emotional needs, and finally also social needs. So let me give you an example. When you look at an app like Uber, there's the functional need, I need a ride from A to B and it shouldn't cost too much and the taxi should be there in time and I don't want to get wet from raining and those kind of things. Then there's sort of the emotional aspect of that. You know, maybe I'm against the old economy and I feel kind of cool that I maybe that's even a social need. Let's go to the emotional need. I want to feel comfortable in that car. I want to feel safe. I want to know that this guy can drive. I want to be sure that he's been sort of certified and all these things. A social need would be, hey, I'm using Uber, that's really cool. Or I see other people using Uber. Or I have a chat with the guy and I can sort of look up his profile and all these things. Together they form a full picture that help you design very well for these different needs and help you prioritize. And more we're starting to understand that every customer journey we make has these 3 streams: a functional stream, an emotional stream, and a social stream. And they work together. If you are not meeting your social outcomes, it's really hard to meet those functional outcomes. If emotionally something doesn't work, then usually functionally it also doesn't work so very well. So again, it's about integrating. Let's go to the last one, the organization stream. What we find more and more is that you can innovate all you want, but if you don't create buy-in in the organization, it's not going to fly. It's simply not going to work. So we spend a lot of time co-creating with employees, not with customers. I mean, we also do that. We spend a lot of time co-creating with employees simply to get their buy-in, to help them understand what we're doing, to help us understand them and their needs, and to make sure that we're not projecting an innovation into a company and hoping that it will land, but actually, you know, creating it from the bottom up with the organization. So organizational buy-in. Then we do a lot of work around creating shared vision. What is this company going to do in the future? What does technology mean to us? Where do we stand in the competitive landscape? What do we believe in? What is our DNA? This is more a brand question. We do a lot of work around brand-driven innovation, where we mean with brand not logo or colors or slogans or advertising, but we mean the deeply embedded soul of the organization, like really the DNA of organizations. If you can capture that, and if you kiss it awake and innovate from there, it's really, really powerful. And then finally, building capabilities for these organizations to deliver these new technologies or these new solutions. So we believe that a lot of innovation may work on paper, but if people are not empowered to deliver, then how are you ever going to expect to create a great customer experience? So again, we spend a lot of time training front-end staff at car rental companies, training retail staff in luxury goods, retail brands, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just to make sure that these people know what they're doing, they feel comfortable with it, and they can deliver that experience. So together, that delivers this framework in these 3 streams, and they're all braided together, right? We cannot really say what comes first in a project, because it really depends on the context. But usually we have these three streams going on at the same time, and together you can capture them in a nice service blueprint, or you can create all kinds of overviews. But in practice, they go together like that braid we showed. And each have their own sort of activities and their own process steps. You know, with business, it starts with I mean, we're still thinking of this technology, right, that's on the shelf. So you start to trigger attention for it. You start to talk to people about it. You start to demonstrate and prototype maybe and create some showcases. You start to calculate business cases and see how that technology could save money. Prototyping a business and not only a product or a service. And then you start to explore these new revenue streams. And we spend a lot of time creating safe zones in companies where we can experiment and where we can see whether something works and whether we can make some money with it or save some cost with it and whether it's actually going to deliver on what we hope. So we go from Excel sheet to physical space very quickly when we iterate very quickly to explore these new business opportunities. For the human stream, we do a lot of customer research, right? And companies always have stacks and stacks of customer research lying about. You know, the GfK and the Ipsos and all these things. But what we add to that, we always say that kind of research sort of tells you what is going wrong, but it doesn't really tell you why that is going wrong. So we do a lot of contextual insight research at the homes of people and shadowing and interviewing and following and co-creating with them, the more design kind of research. And then we do a lot of like sessions with them, these generative sessions where we let people design their own solutions. And that gives you great insight in their needs and in their ways of thinking. So there's a whole research portfolio to grab that human stream and to understand what people really need in terms of their functional, emotional, and social outcomes. And then finally, with the organization, we do a lot of change management and co-creation and stakeholder involvement. It's a big part of our work. It costs a lot of time, but it's hugely valuable, especially when it's about innovation and new technology. This creating a shared vision, we very much believe that also branding and the creation of a DNA is a bottom-up process. It's a collaborative process. It's not something you can project into a company from the outside. And then I said we do a lot of training and piloting and involving people in prototyping environments and those kind of things. So all these activities take place in order to get from a technology that's lying on the shelf to a solution that's actually solving human needs, right? And that's actually helping people to reach their outcomes. Back to you and the flying cat.
Yeah, thank you. So we felt kind of the urge to put a GIF in this presentation, and then we decided a drone cat was the right thing to do. I don't know what's your opinion. But basically, now we show you all this framework and how to put it in practice, and we would like to share 3 case studies with you. And this is basically how we love to use technology, right? So we have one case study from Zodiac Aerospace, and it's all about to create more valuable interaction, how technology can help us create those valuable interaction. The second one is from TransLink, and it's all about how can we create a seamless experience through technology. And the third one is again with the NHS, and is about how technology can help us solve human needs. So let's start with the third one, always having in mind this framework. So those are all action that you can take. Yeah. So we worked for the NHS again. And what we focused on was mainly a borough in London. It's like Tower Hamlets. And I don't know, have you ever been in London? Yeah? Okay, it's pretty stressful, I must admit, even for myself. And basically their problem that they were giving to us is that Londoners are very stressed. They suffer from anxiety, they cannot sleep, they feel lonely, they have low moods. And what they wanted to do is like, can we create a service to help them? Can we create a service that helped them in their daily life? So what we did, of course, was to go and speak with people. So we went in their home, we started talking with them, so kind of sharing their problem and try to understand how this really works. So you can see here, and I'm just highlighting the stream about the human, so all the research. So we focus on that. And what we realized is that those people needed to be met where they were at. So they should not go and reach for the NHS, oh my God, I have a problem. But how can we do that the NHS is present for them in their real life, in their everyday life? So maybe through social media, maybe through Facebook, Pinterest, and all this type of social media that they use in their daily life. So what we realize is that the NHS could be present in that way for them. And that actually works. So this is a project that is still ongoing, but it's just a way for you to see how we use an existing technology to reach those customers. So now I'm gonna hand over to Erik, that is gonna talk about Zodiac Aerospace.
Yeah. So Zodiac Aerospace is one of those very big companies that are not so well known, but they make airline catering systems, amongst others. So trolleys, galleys, and those kind of things. And their innovation space is very much defined by these things have to be lighter and they have to be cheaper. So their innovation roadmap is filled with looking for lighter materials, for how to make these things cheaper, how to experiment with new materials. However, in the airline industry, of course, the whole innovation space is very much focused on passenger experience, right? And passenger experience is around customization and about starting your journey at home and booking your meal at home and those kind of things and sending your luggage beforehand. And so there was kind of a discrepancy between their sort of logical, ingrained technological innovation roadmap and the opportunities they saw in the market. So what they did, with some help from us, was start a user-centered innovation lab where they started experimenting with stewardesses, with caterers, with passengers, and really starting to look for opportunities in innovation that were much more geared around what do people actually need. And people are, again, passengers and stewardesses and all the stakeholders in this ecosystem. And what they discovered was exactly that you can look at this human-centered stream and look for, like, people need functional needs. If I'm allergic to a certain type of food, I would like to be sure that I don't get that food served as my meal. Emotional needs, I want to be comfortable. There's a flight journey where I have some anxiety or where I'm a bit stressed, and then I would like to have a glass of water and those kind of things. And social needs around how do I interact with the stewardess and those kind of things. So that's an interesting space to explore, and they're quite far with that, and they're doing some really great co-creation work with passengers and getting some really, really nice insights. However, there's also that business stream of how can you actually create a solid business case around, customizing meals and the whole logistics sort of chain around that. How does that lead to a positive business case? And in the innovation roadmap, that agenda point is very high up on the priority. So there's a lot of experimentation with partners and with caterers on the ground to experiment and to find out how to create a business value proposition where everyone makes a bit more money than they do now. So there's more room for innovation, right? So that's a whole stream that is going on at the same time. And then there's the organizational stream of trying to innovate in this space in a company that's driven by technology, by engineers, that's not so design savvy. And we are very lucky. We work with one of their lead designers who is very much a design thinker and a service design thinker to help this organization get their head around new types of innovation that are not necessarily technology push, but they're much more around experience and services and Internet of Things type applications. And it's a very interesting case study because it has all these different elements going on at the same time. And they are booking some really great progress because they dare to prototype. And that's one thing, people, that I really want to stress very much. Don't think too much. Go out and do. Go out and prototype, right? Try things out because it's really speeding up the process a lot. The next case, it's a company that you may not know. It's in Holland. It's the company that's responsible for the whole IT backend of our public transportation paying system. So it's like the Oyster card in London. And I'm sure you have one here in Poland as well. So TransLink provides that IT backbone to helping us pay for our public transport. With the wireless payment with bank cards, it becomes very likely that we can start paying for public transport just using our bank card. So that technology is there. We can already do that, and there's been experiments where that already works. Their question to us was, if we want to implement that technology, what will customers think? And we said, that's a good question to ask. It's a bit upside down world, right? So we have this technology, what will customers think of it? But at least they were asking the question. That was very good. So we started to do our research, and we developed 3 personas, and these 3 personas have a very different attitude towards technology, and they have a very different attitude towards an adoption of something like this. Like, for example, one would be very risk averse. They don't really trust big companies. They don't want to share their data. They don't really trust banks. And they would be a bit hesitant to use their bank card as public transport ticket, because that would mean everyone knows where they are, and maybe it gets stolen, and how do I know how much money is taken from my account, etc. While the other one is very tech savvy, very positive, very optimistic, uses a lot of technology, etc. So this was the human stream, and this helped us really to make them understand how important it is to not simply push this technology into the market, but really take into account what kind of calls you get to the call center from these different people. And who are they going to call? Are they going to call the bank, or are they going to call the public transport company? Those kind of questions we started answering, and that led us to the organizational stream, where we really brought banks and public transport companies together around the table to analyze this customer journey and to be very well prepared from an organizational perspective on how to deliver this service in the end. And it led to changes in the business case around how can we, there, of course, you can imagine that you have in the back end, how much money do you charge people and how much do you take from them and then give back after their trip, and that whole business case is quite complex. And actually we managed to change their thinking around risk and risk management on the basis of these insights. So also a good example of how these 3 streams interweave and work together.
Yeah. So we have seen already the movie Her. I'm gonna move here for the conclusion. I feel it's an important moment. So, yeah. So we have been talking about this human technology framework, right? And this is something we want to give to you at the end of this speech. But there is also something else that we would like to share with you before leaving today. And it's this human technology manifesto. So basically what we believe is that every choice we make as designer will impact other people in how they live their life, in how they reach their goal. So we must see technology. We need to do that. We must see technology through a human lens, using it to enhance the lives of customer and employee, as we mentioned. And we should do all of that in a way that is sustainable for the business, but also for the society that we operate in.
So can we humanize technology? We think we can, and we saw a great yes but presentation, and I think we've covered lots of buts. But yes, we think we can. All you need to do is sort of keep these 3 streams in mind. It's not about the technology as such. It's about people, it's about organizations, it's about business cases. And that manifesto is sort of triggering you also to think of, what good am I doing? Am I really using this technology in a responsible way? I mean, the fact that you can maybe program and understand this technology and embrace it and get it doesn't mean that the end user gets it, or it doesn't mean that that frontline employee gets it. And it's them who have to use it and deliver it, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they get it and that they get value from it. So, question to you, will you create great products and services that have value for customers, businesses, and organizations, and use technology as a means, not an end? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erik and Flaminia. So it's time for Q&A, so question and answer session. Guys, any question?
Great presentation, by the way. I love that you talk about the organizational layer, which is often sometimes the most lengthy and the most complex. Do you have any tips of how you sort of build that into a business plan, or when you're engaging with a client to say this is a needed part to engage with your organization as a whole?
Yeah, it's we still have some clients who come to us and say just fix the problem and don't bother with all the co-creation. But I would say 7 out of 10 sort of get that that's not the way to solve problems. So those 7 out of 10 are easy, right? They understand that we need to build this process of co-creation and collaboration and involvement. And the project starts with an initiate stage where we get people in the same room to talk about, why are we doing this project in the first place? And we build teams and we give them assignments, and they are part of the project team. It's those 3 out of 10 that are harder, right? That come to us and say, we have this problem, fix it, and we go, well, we need to involve your people in that. And say, no, don't do that. Don't touch the organization. And then I think, there's a general tendency for companies to get a bit more of the service design approach, so that makes our lives a bit easier. But we still have to do a lot of preaching to CEOs and sort of sell the approach to them. And we have said no to clients who did not buy that approach from us, simply because we fundamentally do not believe that you can reach goals by simply sort of projecting a solution into an organization. But it's still a bit of an uphill battle, as I'm sure you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on that, it's funny because we were talking about this morning at breakfast, and I was saying we're going to have this kickoff meeting for a project, and then we need to make sure we know all the key stakeholders that we are going to involve right from the beginning. So it's something that we realize more and more that you need to do and identify it at the very beginning, and then take them through the process is, I don't know, a good tips that we are learning through time.
So I think it does help to name these stages, like to have an initiate stage, or to have a scoping stage, or to say our first session is about creating buy-in, to name it, to put it in your proposal, to price it. That already gives people the idea of, okay, this is apparently important. I guess that's where the preaching starts. Cool.
Anyone else?
Hi, Erik. You mentioned something like prototyping a business. What do you mean by that? What tools do you use to prototype a business?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're just discovering that. So we're doing one project for the kitchen market. The kitchen market is kind of old-fashioned and a very intransparent buying process, and we're disrupting that whole experience from orienting, purchasing, installing, using, etc., and aftercare. And we've designed the actual product, the actual kitchen. We've designed the whole customer journey, the whole experience, the retail environment. But most of all, we've designed the business. And designing the business means literally sketching in Excel. So what we're doing is we have the whole business case for the coming 5 years, with all staff costs and investments and partner costs and you name it. And that Excel sheet has been living next to the drawings of the kitchen and the customer journey maps and the sketches of the retail environment. And that Excel sheet has gotten the same kind of attention in terms of sketching, prototyping, validating, as the rest of the streams. And I guess that's what I mean by looking at business design in the same way as product design or digital design or service design. It is a design activity. It just, you don't use colored pencils, but you use Excel. Yeah.
Last one question.
Hello. I also have a question about the organizational buy-in. Have you had experience, and how did you deal with somebody signing off, completely buy into your process? You do all of the work and come up with a great solution, and then they're like, no, we saw it in this other way. How do you approach this?
Yeah, I think you tackle a very important point, and this is why we love to co-create things. So not just at the beginning, you really understand who are the key people that you need to talk through, but like all the time during the process, you involve them and you make sure they're understanding what you're doing and like give your input. So at the end of the process, you're not like, this is our solution. And people are like, what is this? I don't know what you're talking about. So there is this exchange through the process. And like this help us to avoid that challenge that you just mentioned, I think.
And then still sometimes a decision is forced from above, or a company gets purchased, or something goes wrong, or whatever, or some kind of urgency suddenly emerges and things change. And I guess part of our job is not to think too much of our outcome and forcing our outcome into the organization, but that kind of change, those kind of urgencies or whatever, are also part of the ecosystem. You know, you cannot wish them away. I mean, you can wish them away, but they will not go away. So I think we're trying to be agile and trying to be flexible, sort of deal with new realities as they come. So, for example, we had a really, really great project lined up for a really, really great global brand, and everyone was happy and agreed, and then there was some boss somewhere who said no, and then the cards were shuffled differently. And then rather than sort of saying, we failed, we said, okay, so that's the next challenge, you know, that's another hurdle to take, and let's build from there and recreate the process from there. So I guess it's very much about taking reality as it comes and sort of dealing with it as it comes, because these things will never go away, right? And I think our role as service designers is to not, you know, sort of start to weep when it doesn't work, but be realistic and try to bring in our approach. But, you know, when we have adversity, keep on smiling.
Thank you. Awesome. Great. Thanks, Erik and Flaminia from Livework.